I picked that as an approximation.
Well, and, well, we won't get into it. There's a whole lot of technical information that makes it even scarier, but...
Mm-hmm. Your mileage may vary.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Fine print.
That's a really good way to put it. With the IndyMac...
Some settling may occur after packaging.
Yeah. Based on this article sold by volume, or by weight, not volume.
That's right, yeah.
Our industry-funded reserves, which continue to be replenished through deposit insurance premiums, will be enough to cover whatever losses we will suffer as we work through this more challenging credit environment, she said. IndyMac's bank assets were seized by federal regulators July 11th after the mortgage lenders succumbed to the pressures of tighter credit, tumbling home prices, and rising foreclosures. The bank was the largest regulated thrift to fail, regulators said. This is true. And that story actually came from Fox News.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, and they, although it looks like they took it from the Associated Press. But that's okay. A lot of people take it.
I wonder who'll take it from us.
Hopefully the listeners.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's what I got.
Okay. What I took from that is none of us can rest right now wherever our money's deposited. Wherever your millions are, Tom, you can't rest completely if they're in a bank.
That's okay. I'm heavily divested in pork belly futures.
Mm-hmm. Actually, most of my money is in gold bullion in a cave off an undiscovered island. I have a little submarine. I go in there and get it.
A yellow submarine?
Oh, no.
Okay,
that's where we all live.
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to have a little change of the palate?
Yeah, sure.
Something a little cheerier.
Tasty.
A little cheerier than that.
Mm-hmm.
Iran plans to knock out U.S. with a nuclear bomb. Test missiles for electromagnetic pulse weapon that could destroy America's technical infrastructure, even including our sophisticated Future Quake studio.
Well, that's happy.
State of the art as it is. This is from WorldNet Daily. Iran is not only covertly developing nuclear weapons, it's already testing ballistic missiles specifically designed to destroy America's technical infrastructure, effectively neutralizing the world's lone superpower, says U.S. intelligence sources, top scientist, and Western Missile. That's for having Mish on this week.
What's going on over there?
Mish the Missile.
Am I going to have to come in there?
Sound like Foster Brooks. Western missile industry experts. Mm-hmm. The radical Shiite regime has conducted successful tests to determine if its Shabab-3 ballistic missiles capable of carrying a nuclear warhead can be detonated by a remote control device while still in high-altitude flight. We've been down this road before. We've covered this
like me and you?
Like a year or so ago on Future Quake.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, I don't recall us detonating any missiles in flight.
No, but I mean talking about it.
That's true.
See, because they did a test a long time ago, and I don't know if this is all being rehashed or not, but they did a test where they had a very high-altitude travel of it, and they blew it up, and everybody thought it was a failure, and then some people said, no, they're getting ready for an EMP bomb. So I don't know if this is just rehashed or if they really think it's becoming a threat again.
I don't know.
President Reagan's top science advisor, William Graham, says there's no other explanation for such test than preparation for the deployment of an electromagnetic pulse weapon, which could knock out America's critical electrical and technological infrastructure, effectively sending the continental U.S. back to the 19th century with a recovery time of months or years.
Wow.
Which, wouldn't be so bad to be back in the 19th century. I mean, I've seen like Bonanza and stuff like that on TV. People are very nice, gun smoke.
I just can't see you like riding a horse around.
You don't?
I don't. You've got an electric car, Mike.
I'd be more like Dr. Lovelace from the Wild Wild West. You remember him? He had all those newfangled gadgets.
You could be like Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman.
Thank you very much. I'd be more like Sully. Yeah, you think you're real proud of yourself.
I'm sorry that I live in my own little world, folks.
Iran will have that capability, at least theoretically, as soon as it has one nuclear bomb ready to arm such a missile. North Korea, a strategic ally of Iran, boasts such capability. Last month, Congress heard testimony about the use of such weapons and the threat they pose from rogue regimes. Iran has surprised intelligence analysts by describing the mid-flight detonation of missiles fired from ships on the Caspian Sea as successful. Even primitive Scud missiles could be used for this purpose. U.S. intelligence officials reminded Congress there is a glut of these missiles on the world market. They're currently bought and sold for about $100,000 apiece. We need to pass the hat and see if we could get one of those. Future Quake missile.
That'd be cool.
Now we're probably on like Echelon. Just pick that up on the air.
Well, I mean, it'd be fun.
We talked about that.
It'd be,
just for demonstration purposes.
Well, they have that thing. They have that thing out there in the Utah desert where these people build not commercial missiles, but like private missiles, shoot them up in the air. Big ones.
Huh.
Like, using solid and liquid propellant and stuff, like up to 100,000 feet.
Huh.
You never heard about that?
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about Burning Man Festival for a minute.
No.
But, it'd be neat to have a little sign on your door, this house protected by Scud. Anyway, terrorist organization might have trouble putting a nuclear warhead on target with a Scud, but it'd be much easier to simply launch and detonate in the atmosphere, wrote John Kyle, senator. Thanks for giving them the idea. No need for the risk or difficulty of trying to smuggle a nuclear weapon over the border or hit a city. The Iranian missile tests were more sophisticated and capable of detonation at higher elevations, making them more dangerous. Detonated at a height of 60 to 500 kilometers above the continental U.S., one warhead would cripple the country, knocking out electrical power and circuit boards, rendering our U.S. communications impotent. While Iran assists officially in talks currently underway with the EU that is only developing nuclear power for peaceful purposes. The mid-flight test persuades planners that Tehran can only be planning such an attack, which depends on availability of one nuclear warhead. Now, there's more to say on here, but I could skip to it. We're getting late, and if you want to do a quick story, I think we get the gist of it.
Okay. Well, we
Anyway, it burned out stuff. All your electrical stuff wouldn't work.
Well, I was thinking about that today, and since I drive a stick shift, I don't need the electric starter in my car. I can just push start it.
Okay.
So we're okay. And I
just
think
have to park on a hill too. That would help.
You could
park downhill.
I wonder if you could do this. If you could take a car with an automatic transmission, put it in neutral, jack it up, and then like put a rope around the tire and just
spin it up.
Just
like
pull
a yo-yo or something like that.
Yeah. I wonder if you could do that.
Yeah. I used to have this toy when I was a kid called an SST, and in fact, you did that. You had like a little T string, it had little teeth on it, and you pulled it, and it spun up the wheel to like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then you could sit on the ground and it would go real fast, or you could set it on your skin and do like a really terrible burn on your skin.
This would be kind of the same thing.
I don't think they tested toys as much back in those days.
No. Well, there wasn't such a overhang of lawsuits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's interesting to know. But basically, we'd lose. I'll give a little tip to folk. Now, if this doesn't work and we get hit with EMP, don't come after me. But my understanding is if you have some critical stuff like a radio or some other stuff you need if something bad happens, one way to protect it from EMP is to create something called a Faraday cage. And that can be done simply. The simplest way is to take something like a tight-fitting metal garbage can with a lid that fits good on it and put some like bubble wrap or plastic or something just so it forms a barrier, and then set your electrical equipment in that. And what happens is I think that electric field just gets on the outside, but it can't get into your equipment.
Wow.
But it shields it from burning for that instant.
Well, that's cool.
So if you had something really, really valuable, like for example, I would put a radio in there, most importantly, so then you could at least listen to Future Quake if you lose all other capabilities. In civilization.
Well, I imagine after an EMP blast, we'll probably be broadcasting via Morse code.
Well, that's possible too, or we could be taken by the emergency broadcast network. So they could reach everybody in society since everybody listens to Future Quake.
There you go. We'll just get on the, shortwave, all the channels.
Yeah.
Get out there.
Well, you got a story for us?
I do. This actually comes from our buddy Stan Monteith, who we had on a couple weeks ago.
Well, I rattled on. We got a minute and a half, so
okay.
Sorry about that.
Well, then I'll just go real quick. I'll give you the... he's talking about the infamous Tuskegee study here, and I'll just cut right to the chase. He says, and he is citing... And I'll tell you what book he's citing exactly. He is citing this book. He is citing AIDS and the Doctors of Death, page 168 to 170. The influence of population control advocates can be seen in the Tuskegee study, a scientific research program in which 400 syphilis-infected black men were recruited by the U.S. Public Health Service in 1932. The participants were told that they would be treated for their infections, but instead had all effective medicine withheld. The black men were actively prevented from obtaining treatment elsewhere as their bodies and the bodies of their wives and children were systematically ravaged by the disease. The men who conceived this Nazi-style study justified their atrocity by saying that scientists needed to learn how untreated syphilis progressed in the human body. For 40 years, from 1932 until 1972, the genocidal Tuskegee study continued. It was not until 1972, after one newspaper finally broke the story, that the study was finally terminated. By that time, only 125 of the original 400 men survived. According to Margaret Sanger's Sense of Morality, experiments on human weeds were fully justified in the name of science. And he actually quotes two books there.
Man, you got something really deep here, and I'm sorry we have to run, which we really do. Let's go. We can come back and talk to that, okay?
Okay.
Because that's some deep stuff. Bottom line is, this is another example of our fine, wonderful, benevolent American government that we think never does anything wrong.
Just look up the Tuskegee experiment.
And that's why people are skeptical about allowing torture and things like that. Well, I tell you, there is somebody for us, and that's Merv, who can tell people how to send us comments or emails. Merv, tell them how they can get a hold of us and find out more.
Future Quake radio broadcasts are archived at www.futurequake.com, suitable for downloading or streaming, as well as other show information. Email Dr. Future and Tom Bionic at drfuture@futurequake.com. That's DRFUTURE at futurequake.com. Tell us your name, city, and radio station or internet, and if we can use your name on air. Comments on the show's topics or guests, or suggestions for future show topics or guests are most welcome. Dr. Future and Tom will discuss selected emails each week during the radio broadcast.
Okay, we're running very, 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 very late.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you early on that.
It's okay.
I think that should be a whole extended time we have on a future
Great.
show.
Let's do that next week.
Okay. Take care, brother.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. We'll have you back next Monday for a great Future Quake show. Until then, I hope your future is very bright. Have a good day.
Shalom.
Join us next time as we dare to experience another aftershock of a Future Quake.